Imagine a grandmother so hungry for power that she was willing to destroy her own family, her own grandchildren, just to sit on a throne that was never truly hers. This is not a story from a distant legend. This is a real story from the Bible. A story so dark that many people don't even know it happened. Her name was Athaliah, and by the end of this video, you will understand why some call her worse than Jezebel herself. Before we dive in, if you enjoy Bible stories that bring history to life, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because we bring you a new story every week that will make you see the Bible in a whole new way. Now, let's go back. Back to a kingdom torn between good and evil. Back to a family soaked in ambition. Back to the woman who almost erased an entire royal bloodline. Let's begin. To understand Athaliah, we have to go back to her parents. Her father was Ahab, king of Israel. Her mother was Jezebel, a name that has become a symbol of wickedness for thousands of years. Jezebel worshipped false gods. She hated the prophets of the true God. She used fear and cruelty to get what she wanted. And she raised her daughter, Athaliah, in that same shadow. Children often learn more from what they watch than what they are told. And Athaliah watched her mother closely. She watched how Jezebel gained influence. She watched how Jezebel silenced anyone who stood against her. She watched and she learned. When Athaliah grew older, she was given in marriage to Jehoram, the son of the king of Judah. This marriage was not about love. It was about politics. Two kingdoms, Israel and Judah, had been divided for years. This marriage was meant to join them together, to create peace between the two royal families. But peace was not what it brought. Athaliah carried her mother's ways with her into Judah. Slowly, quietly, she began to influence her husband. Judah had a rich history of following the true God. But under Athaliah's influence, that began to change. Jehoram started walking away from the ways of his ancestors. The Bible tells us he did evil in the sight of the Lord, just like the kings of Israel, because he had married into Ahab's family. Picture the people of Judah watching their king change before their eyes. Once a nation devoted to God, now sliding into darkness because of the woman standing beside the throne. When Jehoram's reign ended, his son Ahaziah became king. He was Athaliah's son, and guess who he turned to for guidance? His mother. The Bible says his mother encouraged him to do wrong. Athaliah was not just influencing a husband anymore. She was shaping the heart of the next generation. She wanted control, and she was building it patiently, one relationship at a time. But then, everything changed in a single moment. King Ahaziah was involved in a conflict with the king of Israel, and during that time, tragedy struck the royal family. Ahaziah's life came to a sudden end far earlier than anyone expected. The news would have spread through the palace like fire through dry grass. The king was gone. Judah needed a new ruler. And this is the moment where Athaliah's true nature finally came out into the open. Picture her, standing in the palace, hearing the news that her son was gone. A mother should have felt grief. A mother should have wept for her child. But something else took over Athaliah's heart that day. Ambition. Cold, calculated ambition. She realized something chilling. If she acted quickly, she could take the throne for herself. Nothing stood in her way, except one thing. The royal children, her own grandchildren, the rightful heirs to the throne of Judah. And so, Athaliah made a decision that would echo through history as one of the darkest moments in the story of God's people. She gave the order to remove every single royal child, every heir who had a claim to the throne, her own grandchildren. Take a moment to imagine that. A grandmother choosing the crown over her own family's future. The palace, once filled with the laughter of young princes, became a place of fear. Soldiers moved through the halls, carrying out her command. It's hard to even picture the horror of what happened there. A woman so consumed by the hunger for power that no relationship, no bond of blood, could stop her. But in the middle of this darkness, something happened that Athaliah did not expect. There was a woman in the palace named Jehosheba. She was the daughter of the former king, Jehoram, and she was also, in some accounts, connected to the priestly family serving in the temple. while chaos spread through the palace. Jehosheba made a brave and quiet decision. She would not let every heir disappear. She took one baby, a little boy named Joash. He was just an infant, completely unaware of the danger surrounding him. Jehosheba wrapped him up, and along with his nurse, she hid him away, first in a bedroom, away from the eyes of the soldiers, and eventually in the temple of God itself. Think about the courage this took. If Athaliah had discovered what Jehosheba had done, there would have been no mercy. Jehosheba was risking everything, her own safety, her own future, to protect one small child, the last living heir of the royal line of David. For 6 long years, baby Joash grew up in hiding, inside the temple, cared for by Jehosheba and her husband, a priest named Jehoiada. While the world outside believed the royal bloodline had been completely wiped out, this one small boy was quietly growing, safe within the walls of God's house. And meanwhile, Athaliah sat on the throne. She had done it. She had taken control of Judah. The Bible tells us plainly, she reigned over the land. A woman who was not even supposed to be part of the line of kings, now ruling from the very throne her family had fought so hard to gain. But a throne built on broken relationships and hidden secrets can never truly stand strong. For 6 years, Athaliah ruled Judah. We don't know every detail of what her reign looked like day to day, but based on everything we know about her family and her history, it's easy to imagine the kind of influence she brought. False worship, fear, a turning away from the God who had once blessed this land. The temple of God, once the center of worship and life for the people of Judah, may have been neglected or even damaged during this time. Some records tell us that things dedicated to God were even taken and used for the worship of false idols during this period. Imagine the sadness among the faithful people of Judah, watching their nation drift further and further from what it once was, wondering if things would ever change, wondering if the promises God had made about David's family continuing on the throne forever would somehow still come true, even in the middle of all this darkness. But God had not forgotten his promise. While Athaliah sat comfortably on her throne, believing she had eliminated every threat to her power, a plan was quietly forming inside the temple walls. Jehoiada, the priest, had been watching young Joash grow. He had been waiting, watching the right moment. When Joash turned 7 years old, Jehoiada decided it was time. This was not going to be an easy task. Announcing a hidden king was extremely dangerous. If word got out too soon, Athaliah would have acted immediately to protect her throne. So Jehoiada moved with wisdom and careful planning. He gathered the commanders of the guard, the leaders who protected the temple and the palace. He brought them together in the temple, away from prying eyes, and made a covenant with them. He showed them the king's son. Imagine their reaction. For 6 years, they believed the entire royal family was gone. And now, standing before them, was a living, breathing heir to the throne of David. Jehoiada gave them careful instructions. He organized the guards into groups, positioning them strategically around the temple and the young king to protect him at all costs. Every detail mattered. One mistake could mean the plan would fail completely. Then, the day finally came.
You are the
Jehoiada
light of
brought
our future.
Joash out before the guards, and the people gathered at the temple. He placed a crown on the boy's head. He gave him a copy of the covenant, a reminder of what a king of Judah was truly meant to represent. Then they anointed him and shouted with joy, "Long live the king!" Can you imagine the sound of that moment? After 6 years of silence, 6 years of believing the royal line had ended, the temple courts erupted with celebration. Trumpets sounded. Voices rose in praise. The people who had remained faithful, who had held on a hope even in the darkest of times, were witnessing something they thought they might never see. But of course, the noise did not stay hidden for long. Athaliah heard the commotion. Trumpets, shouting, celebration echoing from the direction of the temple. Confused and alarmed, she made her way there to see what was happening. And what she saw must have stopped her cold. There, standing by a pillar in the temple, exactly where kings used to stand, was a young boy, wearing a crown, surrounded by guards. surrounded by trumpeters, surrounded by a crowd shouting in celebration. The Bible tells us her immediate reaction. She tore her clothes, a sign of extreme distress in that culture, and cried out, "Treason! Treason!" Imagine the shock rushing through her. The plan she thought had worked perfectly, the plan that had cost her everything, her own family, her own conscience, had failed. One child had survived, one child she never knew about. And now, that very child stood before her, wearing the crown she had fought so hard to steal. But her cries for help meant nothing here. This was the temple of God, filled with soldiers loyal to Jehoiada, loyal to the rightful king, loyal to God's plan. No one moved to help her. No one stepped forward to save her position. Jehoiada gave clear instructions to the guards. He commanded that she be taken out of the temple area, away from this sacred place, so that what needed to happen would not defile the house of God. The guards seized her and led her away. And there, outside the palace, Athaliah's story came to its final chapter. The very throne she had clung to for 6 years, the very power she had sacrificed her own family to obtain, could not save her in the end. After this moment, Jehoiada moved quickly to restore what had been broken for so long. He made a covenant between the Lord, the king, and the people that they would once again be the Lord's people, devoted to him fully. The people went to the temple where false worship had taken hold, and they tore down what did not belong there, removing the idols that had been set up during Athaliah's rule. Then Jehoiada set guards over the house of the Lord once again. Order was restored, worship returned, and young Joash was placed on the throne, seated where he rightfully belonged. The people of the land rejoiced, and the city was calm once again, because the woman who had brought fear and darkness into their nation was no longer in power. Joash began his reign at just 7 years old, guided by Jehoiada, who taught him to walk in the ways of the Lord. Under this guidance, Joash did what was right in God's eyes, at least during the years Jehoiada remained by his side. He would go on to repair the temple, restoring the house of God that had been neglected for so long. Now, let's take a step back and really think about what this story teaches us. Athaliah is often remembered as one of the most ruthless figures in the entire Bible, sometimes described as even more dangerous than her mother Jezebel. Because while Jezebel influenced the kingdom through her husband, Athaliah took direct action to seize a throne herself, and she was willing to harm her own family to do it. This story is heavy. It's uncomfortable. It shows us how far ambition and the hunger for power can push a human heart, even to the point of turning against one's own bloodline. But it also shows us something incredibly important. It shows us that no matter how dark a situation looks, no matter how complete evil seems to have taken over, God's plans are never fully erased. Think about Jehosheba for a moment. She was just one woman. She didn't have an army. She didn't have political power. But she had courage, and she had a willingness to act when it mattered most. Because of her bravery, one child survived, and through that one child, hope survived too. Sometimes in our own lives, situations can feel just as hopeless. We might look around and feel like the darkness has won, like there's no way things could turn around. But this story reminds us that even in the middle of the darkest moments, God is still working, often through quiet acts of courage that no one else sees at the time. Jehoiada also teaches us something valuable here. He didn't rush. He didn't act out of fear or panic. He waited patiently for 6 years, planning carefully, protecting the young king, and choosing the right moment to act. Sometimes the right response to a difficult situation isn't a dramatic, immediate reaction. Sometimes it's patient, careful faithfulness, trusting that the right time will come. And then there's Athaliah herself. Her story serves as a warning about what happens when we let ambition and the desire for control take over everything else in our lives, even our closest relationships. She had everything a person could want in terms of position and status, but she gained it in a way that could never bring true peace. And in the end, everything she had built collapsed. This story challenges us to ask ourselves some important questions. Were we willing to sacrifice for power, success, or control in our own lives? Are we protecting the people around us, or are we willing to push them aside for our own gain? And when we see injustice or darkness around us, are we willing to be like Jehosheba, brave enough to act, even when it's risky? The story of Athaliah is not just an ancient historical account. It's a mirror showing us the real consequences of unchecked ambition and the real power of quiet courage and patient faithfulness. It reminds us that no matter how strong darkness may seem, it never has the final word. If this story moved you, or made you think differently about courage, faithfulness, or the dangers of unchecked ambition, let us know in the comments below. We would love to hear your thoughts. And if you want to keep exploring powerful, often overlooked stories from the Bible, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next one. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.